everybody's ready on their, okay, thank you. Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to our Change Lab presentation. We are Change Lab 310, the future of these archives. So basically, we work on organizing the archives here in the library and putting together like different exhibits to kind of share the history of UE. The main project that we've been working on this semester has been on Morse Hill, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. First, I wanted to hand it off to Bri and Nate, who will be talking about their individual projects that they've been working on this semester. And also, my name is Andrea Linzer, and I am a creative writing major.
My name is Natalie Wertz. I'm an archaeology and history major.
My name is Nate Scalzo. I'm an archaeology and anthropology major.
My name is Bri Alley. I'm a senior music major.
And I'm Alexandra Hicks, and I'm a sophomore archaeology major.
So one of my projects that I've been working on throughout the semester has been on digitizing the music programs that we've had over the course of the college's history. So the objective of this project has been just to link the past music programs for on the UE Music site for alumni outreach. And what this process looked like for me was locating the music programs that we have in the library's archives, as well as locating the music programs that the music department has in theirs. So where that got me was an overall timeline of 1948 to currently. And so what this looked like from then on was scanning these programs, digitizing them, uploading the PDFs to our archive.org site, which we started last semester with a previous Change Lab student, and collecting the metadata for it. So here I have just an image of what the collection is on the archive.org site, and it's just titled UE Music Program Archive. And so just a user's point of view of what this looks like. I've attached myself as an example, but the collection is full text searchable. So I searched just like my last name, and a few academic years popped up. One of them from 1996, which I fear is not me, but good to know that an Alley was there, last name Alley. But that with searching my last name, a few years that I have been a part of, we're able to pull up with that. And additionally, I was able to locate the physical programs that I was a part of. And I just attached an example of here, how my name, just searching that, was able to pull up the recital program from my junior recital just this past spring. So all of this is full text searchable for alumni to search. They can even search, any pieces that they may be performed, any composers that they wanted to search. And this is actually already available on the UE Music site. And it's a work in progress. We don't have all of the years, of course, from 1948 to now uploaded, but that is the goal over the next semesters. So I mentioned metadata. Metadata is data about data. So this is applied to both my music program project that I've been working on, as well as the Morse Hill project, and I know also Nate's map project. So the reason why this is important is because it is the information that surrounds a piece of information, so that when we go looking for it, we know what it is. And so an example that I've attached of that we see every day would be, for example, on Spotify. When we listen to a song on a streaming platform, of course we see what the song's title is, we see who it's performed by, who wrote it, maybe who produced it, and all these important information, maybe what album it was attached to, the year it was released. All this information is very important when we go to find that piece of information. So what this has looked like for us is documenting these access points, such as the title, the date, the subject that it applies to, the year of which it came from, the size and format. This is also very important for preservation purposes so that we know how to properly preserve an item for future years. And so, going back to my music department programs collection, what this looked like was each time that I would scan a new program and upload it to our archive collection, of course I would upload this information into a separate Excel sheet so that it was digitally accessible in our side of the programming as well.
Okay, moving on to the MAPS project that I worked on. I used the archives to assemble a list of maps and aerial photos that were in the archives from that had images of campus from 1922 to modern day. And I put them all in metadata tracking little spreadsheet, and I kept track of which ones I scanned and which ones I did not scan, because I wanted to create a visual representation of buildings on campus between all of these years that campus has been on this plot of land. And so I used this program called QGIS, which is a GIS program called Geographic Information Systems, which allows you to, long story short, work with maps and the visual representations of maps. And it allows you to geo-reference photos that you've scanned, which meant that I could line up older maps of campus with modern maps in order to accurately place buildings and add-ons to buildings that were or were not there. And in order to keep track of this, I made a database, which is what that top image is, of every building that has or is currently on campus. If it is not on campus, what year it was taken down, and if it has had an addition or not, and what year the additions were to these buildings. And the end goal of this would be, as I said, a visual representation or a timeline to click through. It's not fully there yet because I had to create traces of every single building on campus for each given year. Next slide. And so here is an example with street maps lined up with a modern day public safety map of campus, which shows the buildings. And then here is that same overlay with a vector, which is just the lines over there of buildings that were on campus around 1922. So it's not done, but yeah.
Right, so the big project that we've all worked on is the Morris Hill College collection. We have developed an exhibit called A Day in the Life, where it follows two students going through their day at Morris Hill College. So this has been a large work in progress since the Change Lab started. We've done lots of stuff over many semesters, but it's really coming together now in this semester. So we've gotten to do first-hand research experiences. We actually went to Morris Hill in Indiana. It's 3.5 hours from here. And we got to see the last standing building on campus, Carnegie Hall. That was fun. They have a wonderful museum that we got to look through, and we got to explore the building and see the classrooms that students actually would have been in. And of course, we've done a lot of archival research, many hours in the archive, and we found some incredible stuff. We have a huge collection from Morris Hill, and it's just been a lot of fun to actually go through all that stuff. And then, of course, as it's been mentioned a couple times, but we have a scanner now that allows us to digitize all sorts of information, photographs, documents, maps, music programs, all sorts of stuff. So we are all trained on that, mostly. And then, of course, we have built a website that houses this exhibit. So all of this was made possible by a grant that we received from Indiana Humanities. That was, we received that a couple semesters ago, I believe. And so we used it, of course, for travel expenses, for purchasing the scanner. We purchased a display case, which you may have seen in the library by before entrance, and the subscription for our website. So here's a sneak peek into what it looks like. It's hosted on omeka.net, and there's a QR code, which is in other places as well. So this is the landing page, and at the top or along the side, you can choose to look at the introduction, the about, connect with campus history, and then of course our two students who you'll hear more about in a minute. And then you can go into their schedule and extracurriculars. Stella, we have broken down her extracurriculars further, and we hope to do this for Harvey as well. This is still a work in progress, but we are very proud of it so far. For the future, we want to add, of course, more about the extracurriculars, and maybe even more about Morris Hill College in general, because we have, like I said, so much information that we would love to share. We are experts because of how much time we've got to spend with the information.
Alright, so just a little bit of background information about Morrisville College, just to give some context. So it was founded in 1854, and like Natalie said, it is located in Morrisville, Indiana, which is about 3.5 hours from here. It's in southeastern Indiana, about 45 minutes west of Cincinnati. It was affiliated with the Methodist Church, just like UE is today. And it was also co-ed from its inception, which was pretty rare for a school of that time. It was one of the first in the US that allowed female students, and it was one of the only schools that was able to stay open during the Civil War, because when many of the male students had to go off to fight the war, the female students were able to continue to go to school, and so it was one of the only universities that was able to stay open. So from its inception, there was a lot of financial struggles. Morrisville is a pretty poor area, and there was a lot of competing colleges, which is why there was a movement to move the college to Evansville, which was mostly thanks to the work of George Clifford.
So more on metadata, in case you had not heard enough. So in the process of making this exhibit that we premiered this semester, of course this involved us logging this metadata so that it would be accessible on the website itself. And so just as an example, we attached an image of Carnegie Hall, which is on the website. And of course we logged the metadata with it, and so that way it could be visible on the website for our audience to be able to view themselves. We see that it was from 1908, and it is a physical object, and all these other things.
Okay, so to give some brief overview of the two students that we followed for this whole narrative project on the website, we have Stella Wright, who then married and became Stella Barkley. She attended the academy through Morrisville, which was an equivalent to a high school education because she was a local to the area. They actually shared transcripts with the college, so you would have a column on the left of the transcript for the academy, and you would have the main section for the 4 years at the college. However, Stella only attended 3 years at the college, and she graduated with her Bachelor's of Science during that time. So she attended from 1912 to 1915. She was heavily involved in extracurriculars, and we learned this through the melanges that we have, which are the yearbooks that they had for each year. We don't have every year of the melange, but we have enough that we were able to put together some information. And Stella was involved in the women's basketball club while it was at an official club on campus. They managed to play one game against Louisville. That was a home game for them. They got a score of 18-6 and lost. Not the greatest track record here. And they were gonna play a return game with Louisville, and they ended up having the entire club get axed before the return game. And Stella has a letter about this that is fully transcribed on the website. It's a great read. It goes into further details of how basketball continued for girls at Morrisville College, between the girls at the college and the girls at the academy. She was also a member of the press club, which wrote the student newspaper at the time. There were several student newspapers, so we can't be fully sure which ones were being worked on between years, but we do know for a fact that the press club worked on whatever the paper was. And then she was also a member of the Sigornian Society, which was a women's literary society. They're kind of similar to today's Greek life organizations, and we know that the Sigornian Society stayed with the college when it moved to the Evansville campus, and it later became the sorority Chi Omega. So it's the same organization, it just changed.
Alright, so this is the other student, Harley Ward. He attended the preparatory school from 1907 to 1908, and then from 1909 to 1912, he attended the college as a regular student, and at the end of that, he obtained his Bachelor of Literature. He was also very involved on campus. He was in the band, which was pretty new when he got to the school. He played second trombone, and as far as we can tell, like Nate said, we don't have records for every single year, but we do have records for the year he was in preparatory school and for the year he was in his sophomore year of college. he was definitely in band for those periods, so it's likely that he was in band his entire time at the college. He also played baseball, which is a really big sport on campus. Baseball and basketball were the two big ones. They were never able to get up a football team. They never had enough people. There's actually an article in the newspaper that he worked on, which I'll get to in a second, discussing how they were trying to get one up, and whoever was writing it was very invested in trying to get a baseball team, or not baseball, football team together, and thought like it really makes you a man if you're on a football team. I don't think it worked. They never had a big football team, so, or any that I know of, so it didn't work. But he did play baseball. He was a catcher and a left fielder. And then what's interesting about baseball is we also have a record. He also has a letter that he actually wrote to Ralph Olmsted confirming who was and wasn't on the team in a photo that Ralph Olmsted was looking at while he was writing his book about the University of Evansville from institution to university, whatever it's called. Yeah, so he played catcher and he played left field. He was also part of a newspaper. This one we do have named. We actually have copies of this newspaper bound in the archives from, I believe, the year 1909 and 1910. There are no like names on who wrote which article, and there's no like mention of like who edited which piece, so we don't know which is his specifically, but we definitely know he was working on it because it's listed in the yearbook that year, and he's listed as being part of that team. So he definitely was working on that, and they issued newspapers pretty regularly, just pretty cool. He was also part of the Literary Society. He was in the Photosadian Society. It's kind of a similar deal with the Scornian Society. It was a literary society, so they were very similar to a fraternity, but not quite the same thing. They had private meetings, but they also like the public events that they kind of did were like orations. And he also was a team manager for the basketball team. And we're not exactly sure what that would have meant. We don't have any writings on this, like what that would have consisted of. Presumably, whatever a student team manager would be doing today. And then the photo of him is actually from his sophomore year when he was class treasurer, because he was also class treasurer. So very busy guy. And then this right here is actually an excerpt from one of the melanges. I believe it's the 1910 one. So this is like a little calendar. They had little calendars, and they also had advertisements next to the calendar, so the calendar is kind of a filler so they could put in the advertisements. But these were really lighthearted and fun to look through when I was looking through these to research further. They're very lighthearted. I already said that. But like February 27th just says rain. They don't actually really say what was happening on any particular day. Some of them you kind of can tell what's going on, but not really. But then the day after that, Harley Ward actually gets a special shout out. He is noted for sleeping during his recitations on Monday morning of February 28th, which is really funny, and I just think really humanizes the past. And I think it's beautiful, and I also think it's really funny. That's all.
So we want to give a special thanks to the University Archive for providing all of our information, and thank you for moral and financial support from the Indiana Humanities, the Carnegie Historic Landmark Preservation Society, who currently run Carnegie Hall, and of course the Center for Innovation and Change. And I would also like to give a thank you to Dr. Strandberg and Max Flowers for keeping us on track, keeping this crazy train rolling this semester. It's been awesome. And then, of course, thank you guys for coming to our little presentation. And do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, everybody. I love this presentation. I this snippet that you got from the melange, those are just, they're so much fun. I've read some old crescents, and that sort of, that method of, I guess, reporting, I don't know, is so funny to me, because it's just like we saw someone doing something this person was talking to them. It's just like, why is this here? But it's so good. I love it now. I can't imagine our Crescent publishing stuff like that. But I would encourage like, whoever works on the Crescent. You know, just
I'll
write a
bring it
paper
up next
so-
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Scott's gonna bring back the gossip column.
Yes. Do it. Because
No,
150 years from now, someone's gonna be researching the archives, and you're gonna be like, oh, I see that someone fell in the mud. And it
No one's
rained.
gonna remember. Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
We're printing it forever. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, Alexandra, I love that you said it humanizes the past. I thought that was great. And I had a question to see what some of the other things you feel are gonna take forward from this. Like, what do some of the others feel is something they really found important from this and what you're gonna take forward?
Well, I had so much fun. It was great. I think that we've all learned a lot on like the technical side of archive work, like about metadata, like scanning and organizing. But it has been such a great way to connect with each other as well as with the past, like Alexandra mentioned. I think it's really fun to know that like students are still students, because I think a lot of us have this like picture in our mind of like historical people with like starched clothes and fancy manners, but they were people too, and they pulled pranks and they slept through class and they had, you know, ice cream parties and fun as well. I think it's really important to remember.
Yeah, going off of that, that's one of my favorite things about learning about history in general, but specifically about archives, is like getting to go through like the physical items that we have from like these time periods. Because like one of my favorite parts about this usually is like getting to in the archives, looking through like the melanges or like looking through like the papers they have, and it's really cool getting to feel like the physical objects and then getting to learn about students from the past, because like many of us have said, like it is easy to picture people of the past as just like a little like sepia photograph, but they weren't really all that different from us. So it's cool to be able to connect with college students from the past.
Yeah, I think on a similar note to Alexandra with like humanizing people of the past, I had a really fun time transcribing Stella's letter because it's just so like human. She like underlined certain words in order to emphasize them, like it being unladylike to go play in front of another college, or she just gets into this really funny story of how after the club was disbanded, they threw an ice cream party after, like an illegal ice cream party. They had to sneak in a window and steal the ice cream. And after a game that was held between the girls at the college and the girls at the high school, basically. And it was just a really funny little, very human story. And it was just very interesting.
Yeah, adding on to everything they just said, because I feel like I can't really phrase it as any better than they already did. I'm just really excited for us to just continue to work on these projects that we've already created, and really just keep uncovering more archives that we haven't seen before. I know specifically with my music program project, it's really cool to be able to look back and see, even from like starting at 1948, what kind of repertoire they were performing, and even just comparing that to what we do now. Of course, some of it is a lot of the same, and of course some of it has changed as well, but it's just really important to be able to look and be like, oh, yeah, they were probably feeling very similar to how I'm feeling. Oh, I have a recital next week, you know, like, so it's just really, it's really cool to be able to hold those physical objects, like they said, and be able to connect their stories with ours.
I have a question. So for Stella and playing basketball, I saw the picture and they were definitely dressed. So I'm trying to figure out, did you all see any like change in clothing when it came to basketball, or was it just the full blown neck down cover? That sounds really complicated.
Seems hard.
Every photo that I have seen of the basketball team is pretty similarly dressed. We have several photos across different years, including like when it was an official team and beforehand, but they're all generally about the same dress, which it sounds awful to play basketball like that, genuinely, so I can't even blame them for the losing score there.
Absolutely. Cause I was thinking, I was just like, when you have to run up and down the court, that's not, and then you're in a literally neck down dress, and then thinking about the unladylike comment too. So I just wanted to know about that.
If I
Yeah,
remember
exactly.
correctly, if I remember correctly, I think they have the appearance of skirts, but they are like pants.
Yeah, I think they're just like
Technically,
really wide.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
so like
They're bloomers.
yeah, they're
okay.
bloomers, that's the word.
So slightly more movement than you would think, but
Some of the other
still
pictures.
a lot of
But
that.
still not great because you know it goes
Yeah,
down to
you
like their
kinda see
ankles. So like I would
down there,
definitely be
like,
tripping over
with her
that.
knee,
But
like that's the split.
You
Yeah,
definitely
but-
have to have some type of coordination.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like that shows their athleticism, the fact that they could do that. Because I'm like, I
Yeah,
get
for
overheated,
sure.
I fall over. Like, for real.
Yeah,
They're
literally.
dedicated
Yes.
to the sport.
That's good.
Is Stella in that picture?
She's one of the sideways ones.
She's
The girls
going
turn
sideways.
sideways. We can't quite tell.
Yeah, because all the other photos of her are facing forward, and it's very hard to like figure out someone's face when you're only
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
a straightforward photo.
It's 1913, so she's definitely in it.
Yes.
Which one is she?
One of the sideways.
She's in there.
We do have enough photos of her to be able to tell, but yeah, like you said, the sideways shots are a little hard.
Because I mean, we can name some of them, but just can't tell which one's Stella. Downstairs in one of the cabinets beside the information desk is a set of photographs of all the girls individually, like facing the camera in their uniforms, and also Stella's letter. It's part of the Gender and Women's Studies exhibit down there. Yeah, so we can.
They also have team nicknames too,
Yes.
don't they? That are like kind of mean a little bit.
Some of them are mean. One of the girls was called Wench.
Oh.
Yeah.
For my
Yeah.
Stella was pal.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as you all collecting more artifacts, I'm wondering, will it follow kind of like the same format that
Bride, yes,
Okay.
yes.
okay, that Bride has for the music department? So, and then just categorizing it.
So, that's a good question. Nate and I actually, Andrew, did you look Meditator too? No.
A little bit, but
Yeah.
I don't really like it.
Dear
But
Valerie.
Nate and I for sure had to do a lot of the things that Bride was doing well with like collecting the information about things. So like if we were to expand, actually, so if you click on any photo on the website, you get, that's what this is like the menu that you get when you click on a photo. So if we want to like expand the website with stuff that's in the archives in the basement, yeah, we have to fill all this out. Even things that are like photos that like we took today, we still like put this with it, and then also add to the spreadsheet that the library has, which does take a long time. It's not very fun, but it is like, yeah. So if we were ever to like put up a new exhibit, we would have to do all of this again, unless we use the same photos, because then it like obviously tracks over. But like if we wanted to talk about a new student and they were in different activities, yeah, we'd have to do all of this again. Yeah.
Right, that's definitely just like a part of the research process, like as we collect more items. I'm sure that like next semester, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how much, you know, exactly how much work we're gonna do toward like specifically the Moores Hill collection, but I imagine that as we do more research, we would collect that metadata as we go. Because I mean, all of this is still very much a work in progress, as we've said, and so of course it is easier to track that metadata as we go and you know pull each item from a box and whatnot. I do know specifically for like this website, like a lot of what that process looked like was like Nate and Alexandra like collecting the metadata and like putting it on the spreadsheet, and then like me working remotely to take the spreadsheet metadata and put it on the website. So it was very much like a two-step, three-step process that really
Right.
worked for us, that I think that we would be able to make work again.
Did I answer your question?
It did, and you all would need more people. Sounds like.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think that would be nice. I think if there was like, the last semester, we had a really big class. I think if we had a really big class like that again, we could really make a lot more like expansion about like different areas and possibly even like different time periods, because Harley and Stella are pretty close together, like time
Yeah.
period wise. They're pretty close to the end of Morse Hill. But I think with just us, the fact that we got the website up, I feel like is really impressive.
absolutely.
It's a lot of work.
But yeah, definitely more people would be amazing.
I was just wondering how, I'm just a very structured person, so I'm just thinking about, again, the timeline, the different categories, because we have so many different things happening on campus, so I was just thinking about just logging all of that, so. I know the back end work, but then I'm just like, okay, what will it take for them to include the SOBA stuff, and then the theaters, whoa. So, you know, like, I'm just thinking, and then like just, where can we go to a space to just click on that theme or that space, and then just all that good stuff, so, with students that I come in contact with who want to see more on, you know, a platform like this, I'll just let them know, whatever Change Lab, and, you're more than, I'm pretty sure they will be more than happy to, have you be a part, so this is awesome, thank you.
And also, they can still explore the archives, because we do have like a lot of collections like that we may not have digital versions of finding aids and things like that, but we still are creating finding aids that kind of, when someone, for example, is like, the gender women's studies class comes in and they're like, I'm really interested in maybe student athletics, and I'm interested in around the 70s or something, we can say, okay, like, here's the stuff from that time period and look through. So those records are still available, they're just not digitized, which is kind of like a two-step problem, because a lot of that metadata we need, even if it's not digitized, and so it's like, that is that findability that I think Brian did a great job of explaining why we do it.
Exactly.
So.
This is awesome. Great work.
I have one last question. So Alexa is teaching in Change Lab this semester and next semester.
I don't know what this is.
Well, we just had a reason, yeah, like we met right before this to talk about like, what's it like to do a Change Lab, what are the things we need to keep in mind? And so I wondered from all the folks we're connected with the Archives Change Lab, do you have, like, what's a piece of advice you give to a new student in Change Lab or a new faculty teaching at Change Lab?
I'm not sure if I have like advice really, but I mean, this was my first semester being in a Change Lab, and so I mean, I'm in my senior year, you know, so like for me to just now be taking a Change Lab was really something new for me, and so not advice, but more of like sharing like what my experience was like and what I enjoyed about it. Was in particular with this Change Lab, we had like, you know, these small projects, and so we were able to like divide ourselves into like what projects we were working on and which projects we weren't working on. Like my main project was the music programs, but I was also part of metadata, and the Morse Hill project that I wasn't really part of like the hands-on research for, you know, I was helping them with metadata. And so a lot of like my experience that I enjoyed about that was just knowing what my specific projects were, and knowing, being open to helping my other fellow peers with their projects, even if I wasn't like hands-on there with them doing these hands-on research. I was still able to help and like have that experience with them. And so really it was just a lot of communication, especially, I mean, once again, I mean, you guys are the Change Lab experts, but like me figuring out what that looks like for me as a student was really being like, okay, a class like this really does require so much communication with not only the instructors but my fellow peers too. So once again, not really advice, but more just sharing my experience of, I don't know, I guess with usual classes, I'm only used to communicating with my with my instructor, but with this, it really is important to stay in communication with my fellow students too.
Yeah, going off of that, communication and collaboration I think is really important in kind of like creating like a group community of like things that you want to work on together. And I think just like doing activities or outings or researching together is really important, because you can gain a lot from like going through archives or whatever by yourself, but it is a lot more fun with other people, and there's just so much that you can do and learn from each other that I think collaboration and kind of like encouraging that is probably a big reason why Change Lab like works so well for so many people.
I would just like to add, as somebody who has been in a Change Lab so far every semester since I arrived at the school, which isn't really that many, I'm just the first semester sophomore, and then I've been in 2 this semester and 2 last semester. I think it's really important, like as a student, for there to be like both the freedom to like for this class, I do really like that there's like the freedom to do a lot of different projects. And I think this semester, my instructors were very good about giving deadlines and things. So I think like having a balance between like this is the expectation, like this is what you need to do, but also still having some room to like branch out and do different things is really important, because there's some of the one that I took my first semester freshman year, I had to take. And it wasn't like it was a good class. Like I did things. I like organized events, and that was really cool. But the expectations were like kind of loose, and I think especially for like younger students, like yes, it was nice to have freedom. Like okay, you can plan any event you want. You just need to come up with a plan. But then also like having like somebody actually check in with you. And like making sure that you have the tools that you need to do that, I think is really important. For sure.
It is a struggle too on the faculty side of being, it's like exactly what you said, like the balance of giving you some structure and letting you do your thing. And I have found, this is 6 semesters now that we've done this Archives Change Lab, and I have found that by and large, it's a self-selecting group that really wants to do this.
Yeah.
And have been very self-driven, which is amazing. And so, you know, I'm always fighting my instinct to be like, let's do it this way. And it's like, no, let them figure it out. But I think, you know, kind of doing the brainstorming and the planning and collective, like, okay, what are each of you going to do for the next week, you know, and then being really clear about that. And then also making sure that that's in writing somehow, you know, just for clarification as everybody walks away. And it's easy to just sort of forget, you know, what we just talked about. So then we would usually send a message saying like,
It's really good.
to be clear again, here's exactly what each of you are doing for the next week.
Yeah.
But that being kind of a collective decision, so that it gives them some agency too.
I think a Change Lab is also such a valuable experience on the student end because it's so different from a class. It's almost more like a work environment per se. Like you're doing projects, you're collaborating, you're striving towards an end goal, which is so different from class. And I mean, we're all interested in different things, but it's such a valuable experience, I think, for everyone really, to have communication and collaboration skills.
That is something to really remember. I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of students have trouble articulating the skills they've gained from their college experience as a whole, or from whatever it is that they're doing, and that's a big one. Yeah, and I think that's going to be really applicable to a lot of things.
Well, and this is my first class that I've taught at all here. And it being a Change Lab was very interesting because I think it is so different from a traditional course structure that balance, like we keep mentioning, of like structure versus kind of freedom is difficult. And I think on the instructor side can be very uncomfortable because it's so foreign to and especially like as a librarian, it's pretty foreign from just how I work in general. Like I'm a planner, and so I think moving forward, I would like to see a little bit more structure maybe. And I don't think that it didn't work out like everything that you guys have done has been phenomenal, but I think we kind of hit that stride a little later in the semester, and so it'd be nice to kind of take that lesson learned and start out with a little bit more structure. So it's like, I don't know what your Change Lab is about, so it's like hard for me to give any advice beyond that, but that's just what I've learned this semester, is like a little more pre-planning for me as the instructor would have been very beneficial. So I think moving forward, I'm gonna do more planning in advance, while still allowing the students to kind of guide that course. So it's almost like, to use a map as an example, like giving them a map but not telling them where to go on it, you know what I mean?
I have struggled with that every semester.
Yeah.
It feels like it takes a few weeks to like get in the stride of things, like figure out what we're doing, exactly who's doing what, and like making sure everybody has enough context and tools to kind of do their own thing. Yeah, I still haven't quite figured that out.
I feel like probably that is the struggle with the Change Lab. It's just like, how much planning do you do as the instructor, and how much do you just kind of like give them guidance to do it themselves?
So it takes a lot of setup and build up for them to do it themselves, you know, of course. I mean, even if you're not new to the project, it just does.
I think each group is also different on top, and the support will be different, but then also the goal in mind is also ever changing too, depending on who's coming into the space. I was telling Andrew before we got over here, I was like, the uncertainty of it all is like I'm signing up for a vortex of confusion, but I'm excited, but I'm not, but I am, because I get anxious. So like, hearing you all like give this feedback about the whole planning thing, because I'm very methodical on my mindset and just structure and planning and processing, but then also hearing that you appreciate the freedom, I'm just like, should I trust this? But I know that of course I will, but it's just like, help me. So,
And that communication has been great, because I feel like these students have done a great job of advocating for themselves and letting us
I
know
love that.
if something's not working or what they need. And so like, that's something I would congratulate all of you on, because that self-advocacy is very hard. And that is a skill that like you gain over time the more you do it.
Yeah, that's good.
I will say, the weekly journals that we do, like before, like we show up to like our class meetings were very helpful for me. Like to be able to, document what I already did, but specifically marking down like problems that I encountered, or like maybe obstacles that I would want to bring up to you all, like whenever we actually have that meeting time. You know, of course, I think as Alexandra was getting to, like, of course, like deadlines can be like a little bit, this isn't even structured like an actual class, but it's like, I have to do like an assignment, but like that's really crucial, to be able to actually get something done, especially with my ADHD brain. I need to have a deadline personally. I mean, I'm president of a student organization, and I give them deadlines all the time too, because I'm like, I know your brain functions like mine, and I know it will not get done if I don't give you a deadline. And yeah, I think with young adult students like we are, little check-ins like that are very much crucial in a project like this.
That is helpful because I have that in my notes,
Mm-hmm.
because I need that as well.
Yeah.
I need to know where we're going.
Yeah, that was something that, I think it was, I saw Rosalind Lampkin's syllabus for the Chemistry Club Change Lab, and she had done something like that, like a time log, which especially if your students are taking it for all kinds of different credits, it becomes almost impossible to be like, who's doing 2 credits of work versus 2 credits with honors of work? It's like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's so hard.
Yeah.
So that was something that I saw in her syllabus. And actually, which reminds me, Andrew and Robert, I wonder if you have any interest in getting in touch with Julie Merkel and Diana Rodriguez Quevedo with ECTE, and if they would be interested in hosting a session on like teaching a Change Lab, so that faculty can just get together and kind of like talk through a lot of these ideas and tips.
Almost just like a panel discussion would be nice, especially for people that have taught multiple Change Labs, to be like, what have you learned along that way? Because like as like a new educator, it's like, again, I feel like I had this toolkit and then was told, oh, you're building something that you don't need any of those tools for, or that they're like less important for. And it's like, so then